Let's do this real quick. I want to talk about coral reefs. We ended yesterday with a quick little mention about zooxanthellae, and I think I made you say it a couple times. Is that correct? I also put the notes on the thing yesterday too, but let me go to that part. Most of it's pictures. Oh, that's not right. That is not right at all. Oops. Oops. All right. So this is so I've been to coral reefs before and didn't really truly understand coral reefs until I started looking at them a little bit more deeply, and especially now that we have to focus on that increased those increased hydrogen ions and how they are breaking down those calcium carbonate skeletons. And I think I don't know, maybe I remember when I was in high school going to Florida and then going to like one of those shops that sells like the coral, and that's not really a good thing, by the way, because that coral's dead. Those are all the exoskeleton. Okay, is really that just says like, hey, here you go. Here's a piece of dead coral. And sometimes you'll see some wash up on the beach, and that's always interesting too. But the coral reefs are really, really, really sensitive. Okay, so they're intolerant to a lot of things. So small changes are what ultimately could be the demise of these corals. And someday I doubt I will probably ever get to do this, but it would be amazing to get to visit the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Anybody been to Australia? Australia. Yeah. Maggie, you been to the Great Barrier Reef? No. Did you go to Australia? Oh no, she's saying no. Aliala went last year. I do know that because she got to go to Steve Irwin's. Oh, who Maggie did? Yeah. So pretty cool. So these tentacles are what's really super cool, and the same thing are for like sea anemones. So in a lot of ways, these are like sea anemones, right? And then they have these nematocysts that like shoot out and help get the food. We're going to watch a video about that. But this zooxanthellae is really the key to the awesomeness. Okay, so this is a mutualistic relationship. So once again, we've got a partnering between the zooxanthellae and then the coral itself. So if you notice in that last picture, the zooxanthellae were green, and that anytime you see that greenness in any diagram, that should give you a little bit of a tip that photosynthesis is involved, right? So capturing sunlight and then converting that into energy. So in this case, they do get that energy. It produces, and that byproduct is the ability to grow and reproduce fast. So they can provide, up to 90%. That's crazy. 90% of the coral's energy is coming from those zooxanthellae. There's a lot of mutualistic relationships that are like that. My favorite is lichens. So we're going to talk about lichens when we talk about primary succession. You guys all know what lichens are? It looks like lichens, L-I-C-H-E-N. Lichens are a combination of an algae and a fungus. The fungus provides the home, and then the algae provides the food. And it's a really cool thing. When we get into that, I'll show you some pictures of some really cool lichens. If we didn't have lichens on the earth, it would be, I don't know how we would, I just got an email today that one of the things that's back order is coming in. So hopefully soon. I keep thinking about it all the time. So what do the corals do for the zooxanthellae, right? So do they do anything? They do give protection. Cnidarian nematocysts. Cnidarian is a phylum there, and so they remove that dissolved organic material. They keep that water clear. The waste products are used for photosynthesis, like nitrogen and phosphorus, and that's a fertilizer for the plant. Okay, so really cool mutualistic relationship. So there's a lot more going on inside this thing than what initially you look at and you see that. I want you to memorize all of this. Okay, if you can memorize all of this, that would be awesome. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. Okay, but this is truly just like the products, right? So what does in photosynthesis? What do you need? You need water. You need carbon dioxide. Where does that give us? It gives us oxygen. It also gives us organic matter, right? So in this case, that's how that works out quite nicely. Then the coral respires, right? It releases water. It also releases CO2, and boom, there's that cycle. All right, let's watch a thing. Let's watch a thing.
Yeah.
A coral reef. It can be one of the liveliest places on Earth. But what's really surprising is how much more goes on here than meets the eye. Even the corals themselves are alive. They're made up of tiny animals called coral polyps, distant cousins of jellyfish. Hundreds, even thousands of polyps can make up a coral. And this impressive reef, they built it, millimeter by millimeter. How? A polyp is mostly stomach, with a mouth on top. It sits in a hard skeleton that's part of the reef. The polyp takes in dissolved minerals from the water and mixes them with proteins. Then it rises up out of its skeleton, leaving space below. It deposits calcium carbonate, also known as limestone, into this space. Over time, each little polyp not only builds its own skeleton, but adds to the structure of the reef. So what gives the polyp the energy for all this building? A unique partnership. Inside most reef-building polyps are tiny algae called zooxanthellae. They use energy from the sun to photosynthesize, producing up to 95% of the food the corals need. As animals, the corals emit nutrients valuable to the algae too, and also give them a protected place in which to live. This trade-off benefits both the algae and the corals. It's called a symbiotic relationship. The algae are even responsible for the colors we identify with corals. The resourceful little polyps feed in other ways too. They can't move to get food, but they make up for it. At night, they rise up out of their skeletons to feed, stretching their long tentacles to sneak zooplankton and other food particles passing by. This amazing time-lapse footage was taken at night, with lights. A polyp's tentacles are studded with thousands of stinging cells called nematocysts. They catch prey by piercing it and releasing toxins. And then the polyp uses these tentacles to place the prize into its mouth. Most coral polyps also have an outer layer of mucus that aids in feeding. It acts almost like fly paper, trapping dissolved nutrients from the water and sunlight. The polyp draws the mucus into its gut with hair-like projections called cilia. Some coral polyps can even share nutrients with each other. In coral colonies, the stomachs of polyps are connected by a tissue called coenocyte. This allows individual polyps to work together like one big cell.
Right? Isn't that awesome? Every time I watch it, I never get tired of that video. Ever. I was like, I try to look for all these videos. I was like, which one explains this really good? And I found this one, and I will never not show it because every time I see it, I'm like, oh, Coenocyte, cool, right? Oh man, I love this stuff. All right, so that's the coral reef. We could get into, there's whole classes, marine biology classes on that stuff, and we just don't have time, nor do I have the expertise about all the different coral reefs. But there you go. A lot of chemistry. Yes. Yeah, brain coral. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you killed it. So good job. You're like, I want to touch you. No, you probably didn't kill it. Maybe just one of them.
I mean, like I stepped on it.
Yeah, you killed it. No, I don't know. I came back. It's okay. I don't want to make you feel bad. Killer. Yeah, if you ever go snorkeling, they always say don't stand on the reef, don't step on it, don't touch anything because of the sensitive nature of that stuff. But I've actually not been. What's that? Ooh, man, I have no idea, but that's a great freaking question. All right, how many types of coral? Let's do Wikipedia. Our English teachers finally like saying, like, it's okay to use Wikipedia.
They just say to go to the sources of the site.
Yeah.
Wikipedia, there's people on there that are
monitoring
it.
I trust Wikipedia sometimes more than I trust other sites. But when Wikipedia came out, it was the English teachers they're like, never. You go to Wikipedia, I'll never talk to you ever again. I don't know. I can't find. No, I love it. I think it's usually my go-to for stuff like that, but I can't find it. 600 species in just the Great Barrier Reef. So I don't know. It's I guess why can't I just find a quick little hey, here we go? I guess the quick answer is a lot. Okay, let's do a little reviewsies for the test. Okay, so if you want to take some notes on this, that'd be great. If you don't have to, okay.
So there's about 2,500 kinds.
Oh, geez, where'd you find that? How'd you find it so quick?
I'm on the oceanadventure.com.
Okay, cool. How many?
Coral question.
Coral question. How many again? Yeah, that's true.
2,500.
2,500. That's a lot of corals. All right, so here's the list, and you're like, oh, well, that's not. There's 20 multiple choice questions. Once again, each of those multiple choice questions are worth 2 points each. There's one FRQ. Again, if you try on the FRQ, you will be fine, right? Only one. I promise you this time. I promise you this time. I think what I'm going to do for the FRQ is to actually go in my old AP test booklets and just give you one of those rather than trying to do it on, because it's dumb the way it prints out on AP Classroom. If it was in real life and you were doing it online, it would make sense, but when I printed it off, it looks super dumb. So it will actually look more like this. So it will be about something in this chapter, okay? So I will just print off this top part here. Y'all with me on this? And I will give you a sheet of paper again, and then you will then right on there. And we'll do Scantron for the other thing too, okay? Y'all with me on this? So just let me read through these, and then I'll kind of give you some hints, okay? But again, as I was reading, so I combed through this stuff. chose the questions from, I don't know, there was like, I think like 200 some questions from all of the scope of this stuff. You know, and I looked at all of them. I'm like, which ones would best evaluate if you know this material? Okay, so I looked at not only just the questions, but then the answers. Okay, the questions and the answers. Hi, what can I do for you? Yeah, what for? Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay, sure. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, bye-bye.
What's the summary of those?
What's that?
That all searches?
No, just one. Okay. What was I talking about? Tests?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I looked at the questions and then I also looked at the answers. Okay? Because sometimes when you look at the question, like, oh, this will be perfect. And you read all the answers, like, oh, we're never going to get this. Okay? So I believe that it will be, but it's not just straight, these questions are not just straight up like, if I know that El Nino is mostly westward, I'm gonna get it. You're gonna have to understand that. So there's 4 questions on El Nino. Okay? If you are like, and I'm gonna review it here in a second, but if you think you're like, oh man, I don't know anything about El Nino, go back and watch the video, okay, about El Nino. That was on. It's Spanish for the Nino. Man, what day was that? Hey, Mags, would you do me favors? I'm talking here. Can you think you could like remember what day El Nino was? And if not, that's cool. All right. Yeah.
What did you want?
Like, could you like remember like when El Nino was?
David, go look and see when you posted the LED.
Did I post it?
Yeah, the
Oh.
card.
So Thursday, September 24th. Thank you. Thanks, boy. You're smart. I'm dumb. Okay, so you can go back and look at that video from September 4th or 24th. That would be cute. Okay, so all right, the difference between aquatic and freshwater biomes. You're like, that's really general. Okay, if I were to give you a little bit of a hint on that. Okay, so what do we use freshwater biomes for a lot in the world?
Water source.
Okay, yeah. What kind of water source? Yeah, sure. Okay, good. That's excellent. Okay, so that's a good difference. Now, I've got characteristics of tropical rainforest, temperate deciduous forest, deserts, taiga, that's also the boreal coniferous. Okay, so you're like, man, that's also really, really general. Okay, so remember when we're talking about biomes, we're talking about precipitation and temperature, right? So think about also some of the characteristics of tropical rainforest. Like, what was the temperature like in a tropical rainforest? Yeah, consistent, right? And we also talked about what was the precipitation was like that. It was like high, right? Then I gave my experience of being in Costa Rica for a while, and I talked about what were some of the characteristics of, let's say, the plants. What about their root system? Yeah, branched out, right? Okay, they have those kind of buttresses, right? And why did they branch out? Why don't they just go straight down?
The soil is hard.
Yeah, the soil, it's not really,
thin.
it's thin, but why is it so thin?
Because it, like this.
Yeah, everything uses up those nutrients and those things. It's not like, you know, here in our temperate deciduous forest where, you know, things are just, you know, coming down and they're going to stay there and they'll decompose and little guys will eat that, but it's not like gone instantly. Okay, good. Definitely know like the climograph steps, like be able to picture those things and be able to say like, you know, I mean, I gave you some examples in the PowerPoint. This is one that I'm actually using for Bio 1, but just understand that we've got, you know, low precipitation, but high temps. This would be what? desert, right? That kind of thing. When you look at this one would be, what's that one?
Rainforest.
Yeah, rainforest. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. When you look at something like, and these are not going to be the pictures on here, but if you look at something like this with super low temps, low precipitation, tundra, right? So be able to look, like know what those things are and the importance of that. Okay, so then next, it says the location of an intertidal zone. I showed you those pictures of Oregon, Haystack Rock. Where would I find an intertidal zone? Yeah, on the coast, right? Somewhere in between the land and the ocean, right? Okay, so when sometimes, are they always visible, those intertidal zones? No, sometimes they are, like underneath the water, but when they go out, those tide pools become revealed. So that intertidal zone, that area where the tide comes in and the tide comes out, okay? Fantastic. All right, now, zones in a lake. This is a tough one. Okay, so and I gave you a picture of this one right here. So just take a look at this. That there is the limbic. I talked about limnology being the study of lakes. So that's that middle part. Okay, the benthic completely bottom, profundo in between limbic and benthic, and then this littoral zone. Don't confuse that with the clitoral zone. That's something totally different, and we can't talk about that because you guys didn't sign a paper. Okay, so there you go. What's that? I know we never got to do the reproduction thing. Maybe we'll do. I'll have you sign the paper real quick and at the end of the year, because we'll have some time. If we're fingers crossed, we're here in May. We'll have a week of just kind of playtime, because May 14th is our test, and then May, what's our last day, 26? 20 something? Yeah, so, and remind me to say something off camera here in a few minutes, okay? Right, yeah, hopefully at that point we can do some fun stuff. Okay, hopefully we can go do some fun stuff. What time is this last one, by the way? 3, 2, 3, 3. Oh crap. Okay, let me get through this real quick, and then I'll tell you the other stuff later. Okay, is this helpful, folks? You like this kind of thing? Kind of go through these things? Okay, all right. So remember this. Remember my Earth here, okay? And there's a couple things with this. If I'm staying in Michigan and I want to throw it to Indiana, which way does it go? Right. If I'm staying in Indiana, I want to throw it to Michigan, it goes right. If I'm staying in Chile, I want to throw it to Brazil, it goes left, right? And then, okay, left is right, and right is wrong in the southern hemisphere, right? Okay, so then sun is going to hit this equally, right? That's the equator. What's this top one called? Tropic of Cancer. This is Tropic of Capricorn, right? And then what are these things called? How many cells? By the way, when I go this way, what's that thing called? Definitely not the clitoris effect. Okay. What's it called? I'm writing that down later, man. What's this called when it goes right? Coriolis effect, right? Please know the seasons. Okay, please know the seasons. The solstices, okay, are that longest and shortest day. The equinoxes are equal. Okay, all of our seasons are due to what? The tilt, right? It's all about that tilt. Okay, and really the sun, that heat is the driving force of a lot of these things, right? Remember, stuff dries and cools. So because that air dries, okay, when we go up here, it dries, okay, and then that air sinks, we're kind of like around the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. If I've got really dry air, what do you think I have as far as a biome there? Deserts, right? And it's all because of that heating going up, then it's precipitating down, okay, then it dries and sinks and then goes back, right? You all with me on that? Okay, so that's some of that kind of higher level thinking. So let's talk real quickly. Oh, before I forget that, don't forget Tom and what he does to my thing. And that will help. So troposphere, stratosphere, right? Tom, right with me on this. Troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. Okay, there's going to be you got to know those layers. All right. Okay, let me talk real quickly about El Nino. Where does it occur?
What?
It's happening more in the east, but where we're at? Tropical Pacific Ocean, not the Pacific Ocean by Oregon, the tropical Pacific Ocean, right? Typically, long-term average conditions, everything's blowing west, right? Okay, then the pressure changes and it starts to go east. Okay, that messes stuff up. Okay, because we no longer have that. What's that thing called? Where it comes up here on this upwelling, right? And that upwelling is bringing what back up? Nutrients, really important nutrients. Okay, and why do we need nutrients up there?
Eat everything.
Okay, you had to feed everything. So not only does that affect the fish that are eating the stuff, does it affect humans? What does it do to them? Like, if you're fishing, right, is there going to be those fish there? No. Okay, so that's going to affect that industry, and also it changes weather patterns, around the globe. Okay, so definitely review some of that stuff because everything's moving west. Okay, and everything's moving west. Okay, it's going to be deeper here. That thermocline is going to be deeper in the west. We're going to have hotter water in the west. Okay, more precipitation in the west. Okay, because that pressure is going that way. When I switch pressure to go more to the east, it'll be deeper there. There'll be more storms in the eastern tropical Pacific, right? And that changes all of those things. Okay. What questions do you have?
What?
Oh, great question. So I get this question a lot. If you didn't hear it at home, what does El Nino mean in English, since that's the Spanish? We all know that El Nino is Spanish for the Nino.
Well, we can help.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.